Hey there friends, how's it going? Welcome back to another devlog of Sparkmutts, my open world exploration game where you play as an intelligent dog in the back of a gigantic dragon. With today's update, I would say that we finished most of the main mechanics for the game. Things such as cooking on a cauldron with a revamped crafting system, then eating those things to recover health, or using a spinning wheel to produce linen, and then using that linen with some leather to make some sick new gear to wear. Or maybe even placing a bed in your house, then sleeping on that bed to advance time until it's morning. We also have a minimap now, and if you press M, you actually have a full-on world map that you can interact with to mark points down for your own landmarks. Even the music was changed for a more dynamic and in-depth system that uses layered random audio bits that complement the gameplay. Very inspired by something like Zelda. The game now plays completely different than before. Yeah, it took me like 3 years, but now you can actually play my game for around 20 minutes or so, I guess. Also, speaking of 3 years, the thing that should have been in the game from the very first devlog is finally implemented. And that is a game over screen that actually loads you back into the world. The reason why it took me so long to implement this was due to the prototyping nature when I first started. For example, the level that you would normally play on was not even the final level. And I also needed to make a save and load system for all of your items. Or even determining what was your respawn point was something that needed to be set up first. Of course that I could have implemented a debug sort of reload of the game, but I never really got around to doing that. So for 3 years you couldn't even die right in my game. But now when you first create your character, you start off by choosing what happens after your character dies. Pretty much the standard options on most games like this. You have your hardcore mode if you're a hardcore gamer, you have a keep inventory if you don't want to lose any of your items, and then you have the basic default mode where if you die, all of your items are gonna stay on the place that you died and you can come back and pick them up later. So when you first spawn, that initial location gets saved, and every time you die, if you're not on hardcore, you're gonna respawn there. But if you place a bed on the ground and press E on it, you're gonna save a new respawn point for yourself. Then when you die, the screen is gonna fade to black and your character is gonna wake up from your bed like it was all a bad dream. Well, a bad dream that stole your gear, but at least you woke back in your house, right? And since we're talking about homes, I have made a lot of improvements to the base building. The system had a couple of iterations already, and I would say that we are in version 3.0, give or take. The main improvement now is that you don't have to worry about the distance that the building is to you. Before, you had to press shift to go from rotating to bringing that piece closer to you, and that was extremely confusing to work with. But now it kind of automatically detects the distance that it should be from you. It's not 100%, but it's good for now. Also, I think you guys already noticed, but you can change the rotation axis from most buildings. This means that walls can now be floors, and floors can be walls. Some items cannot be rotated like that because it would just break the game. Now, one element that makes the whole building thing so convoluted and complex is that sometimes it's very situational. Like sometimes I might fix an issue with a particular type of building, but it breaks on a different type. We'll get there eventually, I hope. The next really big mechanic that I implemented was the map and minimap systems. Because there's nothing more annoying than making a cool-ass house and then getting lost in the woods. Well, now after you made any sort of building, or you can just mark a spot, you can just open your map by pressing M, and then on the corner here you can pick what icon, border, and color you want. Then all you gotta do is double click on the map, type a name for that marker, and there you go. This little marker here is going to show up on your minimap, but if you move far away from it, it's going to vanish. Don't worry though, if you just click once on that marker, it is going to become focused. This means that it is always going to stay on your minimap no matter what. It kind of acts like a compass. These little markers are also going to be used to mark points like villages or dungeons or anything that the game generates. This whole system was very tricky to implement, especially because everything you see on the map is procedurally generated. So each world that you create is going to look unique in terms of topology and the vegetation positioning. This means that I wasn't able to use just one map texture for all of the map. I had to actually position a camera to automatically render the entire map as it generated. It works, but not without its flaws. For example, the faraway areas of the map look less detailed, and that's because the actual terrain is simpler. If I find a way to improve this without losing performance, I'm gonna do it. Otherwise, I will keep it like that, at least for now. A new big thing that I finished this time around is also the crafting, at least for the earlier portions in the game. Now you can collect this flax from the world, build a spinning wheel and start spinning. This new minigame here is going to produce you linen, and linen can be used on a new crafting station, the sewing machine. Here you can produce things like a warm set of clothing, a cool top hat, an even cooler top hat, and a backpack that increases your inventory space. These clothing pieces all require either linen or leather, which you can get from the regular boars that roam around the map. And depending on what clothing piece you wear, you have extra defense against specific elements like wind or ice attacks. For this revamped crafting, I also have made this looping animation just to give the whole interaction a lot more character. These pants here are basically the underwear pants that I added to the workstation. And with some simple bone animation, it looks kind of okay on this animation in particular. Aside from the sewing machine, the regular crafting workbench also got a full revamp with a new set of gear and new items. Now you can finally equip yourself with some actual armor that is going to give you more defense against enemy attacks, which are now a lot stronger, by the way. With this new finalized crafting, I also made a cooking system. Now you can place a fireplace using stone and sticks, and then you can place a cauldron on top of that. This is very important because these two building pieces have a synergy between them. For example, if you place a cauldron by itself, you're not going to be able to cook on it. It is going to say that it needs to be attached to a fireplace. Not only that, but the fireplace needs to be lit, so it heats up the cauldron. And in order to light it, you're gonna need to interact with the fireplace and then drag a fuel source into this little inventory here. This is going to add fuel to this little bar, and it is going to start consuming that fuel source. Now that the fireplace is active, the cauldron is hot and the water started boiling. And if you interact with the cauldron, the recipes are going to be unlocked and you can finally cook some stuff. There's meat, there's mushroom soup, and stew. I plan on adding a lot more recipes of different food types as development continues, but for now, this is good enough, I think. After cooking, if you are low on health, you can right-click on the food on your inventory, or you can just right-click with the item focused and your character is going to start eating. Each food restores a specific amount of hearts over a period of time, and you can see that by hovering over the food item. With all of this said, I feel like now we do have a full-on gameplay loop. You can forage for stuff, build a home, venture out to forage for more stuff, get hurt from enemies, cook some food to eat while on combat, and then expand your house. The possibilities are truly endless, like No Man's Sky when it first released. Now, I think you guys noticed these big honks of metal walking around. This one here is the gilded steam beetle, and I wanted to make them work a little bit like the giant creatures that just roam around the world in Subnautica. They are mostly pacific, but they will attack you in defense if you start attacking them first. Also, if you attack them too much, there is a chance they're going to open their wings and fly away. Don't stand too close to them when they start flying off, otherwise you're going to be knocked back. This other enemy here is the Metal Tusk. These are like a bigger and better versions of the regular boars that we had since the start of the game. And they won't pursue you if you don't attack them. The maximum that they will do is attack you once and then leave you alone. If you attack them though, their eyes are going to turn red and they will never stop trying to attack you. My idea now with these mobs is to have something similar to Horizon Zero Dawn, like these machines roaming around the world that you can destroy to get spare parts, or even hack and use them as mounts. This, I think, will bring a lot more of that steampunk vibe to the game. I still need to work on a better way to spawn these guys around though. They keep spawning on really weird positions on mountain slopes and whatnot. During this whole development time, I also struggled a lot with Burnout. I've made a whole ass video about it, so I'm not going to go too much in depth about it now, but I have made a video about it and there is a card over, I guess, over here that you can click. But after or during that whole episode, I've met this guy named Alessio. He offered to make music for Sparkmutts and also mentioned that he works as a project manager. We became friends and he helped me plan and organize a better roadmap for Sparkmutts. Now using a better app to keep track of patch notes and what's coming in each patch note. This app is what he uses professionally in his line of work, and it's called ClickUp. I'm learning a lot with him about just handling these tasks and how to properly focus on what I need to do next. Ever since the start of the Devlog series, I have always mentioned planning and how I was organizing myself, so it's almost become a cliche of my videos to talk about it. But this is something that I'm constantly trying to improve upon. And as I said on the Burnout video, now I feel like I finally have a grasp on how to deal with this whole process. Making games is actually kind of hard, not only because it is like a really big mountain full of unpredictable consequences and problems that you find, but it is also very straining on your mental health to be creating something for 3 years. You know, in the end of the day, it is very hard when you are inside of that creative process to know if your game is turning out okay or not. And having a better planning and always striving to do better with the planning is always a good thing to do, especially for mental health. Well, anyway, Alessio is also an incredibly talented musician and is also making music for the game. Now we have a final main menu song and a character creator song. We also worked on a dynamic music system when you are on the world. So instead of listening to the same music loop over and over again as you play, this sound is split into layers. There's the bass layer with just the ambient noise. And then there's the random noise layer with like a gust of wind or just the sound of leaves moving around. Then there are minor musical cues that play every now and then, spaced around a bigger music cue that has like 20 seconds or so. This makes it so that you don't get exhausted from hearing the same musical loop over and over again, and it makes it a lot more fun to play the game over extended periods of time. But yeah, that's it for this devlog. If you want to playtest the game right now, you can either run to the Discord server and grab a key before anyone else, or you can become my Patreon and get the key right now. Also, subscribe to the channel to follow this journey that I'm going through with Sparkmutts. I'm Leo, signing out.